So I was craving some pistachio macaroons, so I thought I would just make them. So you're gonna need to start with some pistachio paste for the pistachio buttercream. You can definitely buy the pistachio paste, but I just made it from scratch with 2 cups of pistachios. I baked them for 8 minutes at 350. And then once you're done with that, you're gonna put them in a food processor. I really tried to start with my Blendtec. That did not work out. It was a disaster. So I went back to my food processor. It worked out swimmingly. Look at that pistachio paste coming together beautifully. Look at that. So yeah, that's me just scooping the pistachio paste. At this point, I'm like, how is this not just pistachio butter, like peanut butter? But anyway, so now we're moving on to the pistachio buttercream. So you're gonna add 3/4 cup of unsalted room temperature butter to your mixer. Blend that a little bit together, and then you're gonna add your 3 tablespoons of the pistachio paste that we had just made. You're gonna drop that in there and mix it all around. So then you're gonna add your powdered sugar. It calls for 3 cups, but you're only gonna add half of the 3 cups. And I sift that in there for a better consistency. And then you mix that all together, mix until it's nice and uniform. And then you add the other half of the powdered sugar. You're gonna add your 1½ teaspoons of vanilla extract. You're gonna add 1½ tablespoons of milk. Make sure you're scraping down the sides because sometimes the butter gets like stuck at the top. Now you're gonna mix so it's nice and fluffy. This might take a few minutes. Then you're gonna add this to your piping bag with a large circle tip on it. So now we're gonna start making the macaroons. So you're gonna need your almond flour. You're gonna start with 170 grams of almond flour. Measure that out. I use a scale for accuracy. Then you're gonna measure out 300 grams of powdered sugar. Then you're gonna measure out 180 grams of egg whites at room temperature. And I like to separate them in a separate bowl from the yolk and the white, just in case I accidentally crack the yolk. It doesn't like cause me to have to throw out all my egg whites. So I'll separate the egg yolk from the egg white in one bowl, and I'll pour the egg whites into my main egg white bowl, and I'll use that smaller bowl as like a basin so that if my egg does crack, I don't have to toss out all of my egg whites. Now you're gonna sift together your almond meal and your powdered sugar. And you're gonna do this 2 times to get out all the larger clumps and make everything nice and uniform. Now it's time to make the meringue. So now you're gonna put your whisk attachment on your mixer and you're gonna add your egg whites to the bowl. And then you're gonna turn it on low speed so that it just gets a little frothy. And while this is getting frothy, I'm gonna measure out 160 grams of sugar because we're gonna be using this to add to the meringue. So now you're gradually gonna add 1 tablespoon of sugar at a time until you notice that it starts to thicken up. You don't wanna add it all at once because that'll mess your meringue up. So just do it slowly. I did cut out a few clips so this doesn't show how long it actually takes, but just put some or a tablespoon every like 30 seconds or so. Now you're gonna set your mixer to high speed and you're gonna whip the meringue for quite some time because you want the meringue to be pretty stiff, and I'll show you what that looks like when it's ready. But while we're waiting for the meringue to stiffen, this is the time you can add your color. So because I'm making pistachio macarons, I'm going to add green. I initially just started with green, but I noticed it was giving too, what is it? St. Patrick's Day. I don't know why that took me so long to remember. So I actually go back and add a little bit more yellow. And then this is me adding the vanilla paste. So this is me checking to see if the meringue is ready, and it is not ready at all. So keep mixing. This is me adding a touch of yellow to get it a little bit more pistachio looking. I don't know what that means for you. I don't even know what that means for myself, but the color didn't look right, so I went in and added some yellow. Did it do anything? Maybe. I don't know. So here we are checking the meringue again. It's giving stiff peaks, which is what we want. See how it looks? It's not falling over, it's not curling to the side, it's sticking straight up. So that's exactly how you want your meringue to look. This is really important. So now you're gonna add half of the sifted mix to the meringue, and you're gonna mix that together without trying to deflate or remove as much air. Remove as little air as possible. Once that's mixed pretty good, you're gonna add the rest of the sifted mix to the meringue. So here's another really important part. You wanna mix this not like you're mixing like a regular pancake batter or a cake mix. You want to kind of fold it over on top of itself. If you can see, that's what I'm kind of doing to get some air out without removing all of the air, because the air is what gives the macarons the little feet. So you don't want to mix it like in circle motions, more like lifting it on top of itself, if that makes sense. So this is the point where I start to check and see if it's ready, if the batter is ready. So what I do is I kind of mix, and then I'll kind of drizzle and see if it leaves a ribbon behind. So you'll see me do this in a second. So here's me checking for the consistency. And if you see how the batter kind of broke at the end there, that tells me that it's not quite ready, so I'm going to continue to mix it. Here's another little test. Still not to my liking, so I'm going to continue to mix. And then there's a little test to see if your batter's ready. If you can draw the number 8 in your batter without it disconnecting, then you're pretty much good. So I'm happy with that. And then so now I transfer it into my 2 piping bags. And those 2 piping bags have circular tips on them as well, circular piping tips. So now I'm going to get my baking trays ready. I like to use these Teflon sheets that I got from Amazon. They make it so easy to take the macarons off of the baking sheets. Then underneath that, I'll put my macaron template so that I can have consistent sizes and it makes it easier. So piping does take a lot of practice, but after a while you kind of get the hang of it. You can't really tell, but I can see the template underneath the baking sheet. For piping, you're gonna slam your tray against the table to get rid of all the bubbles. And then this is the settings that I found that works best for my oven. Everyone's oven's gonna be a little different. Then after you bake them, you're gonna let them sit and cool, and then you should be able to remove them from the baking sheet pretty easily. As you can see, mine's just pretty much come off the baking sheet. And now it's time to pipe the buttercream in between the little cookies. So I use a little circle tip, a pretty large circle tip, that way I can just pipe in one pipe. And I've matched, or what I usually do is take time to match the cookies to the sizes that works best, because some of them are a little bit bigger, some of them are a little bit smaller. So what I'll do is I'll kind of match the cookie sizes first, and then I'll go back and pipe and put the sandwiches together.